Most people end their day by accident. The wealthy end their day on purpose, and that single difference, repeated over years, becomes the quiet divider between lives that drift and lives that rise. Evening is not just the conclusion of a long day, it is the doorway into tomorrow. Yet so many people treat it like a dumping ground for wasted time, numbing distractions, and mental clutter. The wealthy understand something far more powerful. How you close the day determines how you open your future. They do not stumble into the night, they step into it with intention. While the world scrolls and escapes, the wealthy reflect. They slow down when others speed up. They sit with the day instead of running from it. They ask simple but powerful questions. What did I do well today? What did I avoid? What did I learn? What must improve tomorrow? Reflection is not about guilt, it is about clarity. Without reflection, days blur together. With reflection, every day becomes a teacher, and those lessons, when collected, become wisdom. Most people repeat the same year 50 times and call it a lifetime. The wealthy repeat lessons only until they are learned. Distraction is easy, reflection is rare, and rare habits create rare results. When you reflect, you gain control over your direction. You stop blaming circumstances and start correcting course. The wealthy do not fear facing themselves at night because they know that progress does not come from comfort, it comes from awareness. You cannot change what you refuse to examine, so they examine every night, quietly, consistently, without applause. And while the world seeks entertainment to escape their stress, the wealthy seek understanding to eliminate it. They know that you don't solve tomorrow's problems with tonight's distractions. You solve them with clarity, preparation, and discipline. That is why their evenings are not loud, they are deliberate. They understand that chaos in the night produces confusion in the morning. Order at night produces power at sunrise. Most people wait for motivation in the morning. The wealthy manufacture it the night before. They prepare tomorrow before it arrives. They decide what matters before the noise of the world can decide for them. When you wake up without a plan, you become a servant to urgency. When you wake up with a plan, you become the master of priority. The wealthy do not wake up wondering what to do. They wake up knowing what must be done. This preparation is not complicated. It is quiet, it is simple, it is writing down tomorrow's priorities, it is setting clothes out in advance. It is arranging the battlefield before the fight begins. Success is rarely about doing extraordinary things once. It is about doing ordinary things with extraordinary consistency. And evening preparation is one of those ordinary actions that, over time, creates an extraordinary life. They also understand that the mind must be fed before it is entertained. Most people pour hours into other people's opinions, other people's lives, and other people's noise. The wealthy pour into their own mind first, a few pages of something meaningful, a lesson, a principle, a perspective that upgrades the way they think, because income rarely grows beyond identity, and identity is shaped by what you repeatedly allow into your mind. You become what you listen to, you become what you study, you become what you rehearse in your thoughts at night when the world goes quiet. The wealthy guard that moment carefully. They don't fill it with panic, gossip, or comparison. They fill it with vision. They fill it with discipline. They fill it with direction, because the last dominant thought before sleep has a powerful influence on the actions that follow after waking. They also protect their energy, not just their time. Time can be scheduled, energy must be preserved, and nothing drains energy faster than emotional noise carried into the night. The wealthy understand that exhaustion is not always physical, it is often emotional. Regret, resentment, fear, and unresolved stress will steal more energy than hard work ever will. so they clear their emotional lanes before they carry the weight into tomorrow. They forgive faster. They let go sooner. They refuse to go to bed angry because they know that poisoned sleep produces a weakened tomorrow. Bitterness may feel justified in the moment, but it compounds like interest, and the payment always comes due in health, relationships, and focus. The wealthy would rather be effective than be right, so they release what would otherwise chain them to yesterday. And then there is sleep, not as an escape, but as an investment. The world glorifies burnout as if exhaustion were a badge of honor. The wealthy reject that illusion. They understand that without recovery, there is no peak performance. You can steal from sleep for a season, but eventually the debt will collect with interest. They sleep intentionally. They rest with purpose, not because they are lazy, but because they are strategic. Sleep is the silent partner of success. It sharpens judgment. It stabilizes emotion. It strengthens discipline. The wealthy do not gamble tomorrow's performance on tonight's rest. They protect it. They remove what disrupts it. They turn off what agitates it. They understand that clarity is worth protecting and fatigue is too expensive to ignore. And through all of this, one truth quietly governs their evenings. Tomorrow deserves a better version of me than today delivered. That belief shapes their behavior when no one is watching. It shapes the choices they make when applause is absent. Because the world only sees the outcome, they know the victory was decided the night before. You can change your mornings by changing your evenings. You can change your income by changing your input. You can change your future by changing what you tolerate at night. Small disciplines, practiced daily, compound into unstoppable momentum. Most people try to fix their lives with massive emotional decisions. The wealthy rebuild theirs with quiet, repeated habits when no one is watching. And the most powerful part of all is this: no one can stop you from doing this tonight. No permission required, no resources needed, no special connections necessary, just a decision to close the day with reflection instead of distraction, with intention instead of impulse, with discipline instead of drift. Because when the day ends with purpose, the future begins with power. Most people drift into tomorrow carrying the unfinished weight of today. The wealthy refuse to do that. They understand that preparation is not pressure, it is freedom. When you prepare the next day in advance, you remove confusion from the morning. You remove chaos from decision making. You remove friction from forward motion, and friction more than failure is what stops most people from ever gaining momentum. The average person wakes up reacting to alarms, reacting to messages, reacting to emergencies that don't truly matter. The wealthy wake up responding to intention. They decided last night what today would represent. They chose their priorities before the world had a chance to choose distractions for them. That single difference, reaction versus intention, separates busy lives from productive ones. Preparation is not about being rigid. It is about being ready. It is about deciding what deserves your best energy while you still have clarity to choose wisely. Because if you don't decide in advance, the loudest voice will decide for you. And the loudest voices are rarely the ones leading you toward your highest future. The wealthy know that discipline is easier at night than in the morning. At night, emotions are quieter. The ego is calmer. The urgency of the world fades. That is when decisions can be made with logic instead of impulse. They don't wait to feel motivated to plan. They plan so they don't need to feel motivated. Motivation fades. Preparation lasts. They understand that success is not created in dramatic breakthroughs. It is created in small directional choices that stack quietly over time. Choosing tomorrow's top priorities at night may feel insignificant in the moment, but when that habit compounds over months and years, it becomes unstoppable power. Direction beats speed, preparation beats panic. Most people underestimate the cost of not preparing. They waste mental energy deciding what to do instead of doing what matters. They burn willpower on trivial choices and have none left for the hard ones. The wealthy conserve decision-making power by automating what can be decided in advance. Clothes are chosen. Schedules are outlined. Key tasks are defined. That way, when morning arrives, momentum already has a channel to run through. They also understand that clarity multiplies confidence. When you know exactly what must be done tomorrow, hesitation shrinks. Anxiety eases, uncertainty loses its grip. The mind relaxes when it knows where it is going. Fear grows in vagueness. Power grows in precision. Many people avoid planning because it forces them to confront the gap between where they are and where they want to be. It exposes inconsistency. It reveals avoidance, and that discomfort feels dangerous to the ego. But the wealthy have learned that discomfort is not the enemy, stagnation is. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. Preparation also builds self-trust. Every time you plan and follow through, you prove something to yourself. You prove that your word to yourself has weight. You prove that you are not ruled by impulse. You prove that your future matters more than your comfort. And self-trust is the foundation of confidence. Without it, even talent collapses under pressure. The wealthy prepare not because they are perfect, but because they are human. They know distractions will come. They know obstacles will appear. They know energy will fluctuate. So they build systems that carry them forward when emotions waver. They don't rely on feelings to determine direction. They rely on structure. Preparation is how you lower the cost of discipline. It turns effort into routine, and routine into identity. Over time, you don't even question whether you'll do the work. The question disappears entirely. It becomes who you are. And when your identity aligns with your goals, resistance fades. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a year of prepared days. They chase dramatic change while ignoring the quiet consistency that actually creates it. The wealthy understand that progress is not loud. It is rhythmic. It moves at the speed of commitment, not excitement. They also prepare not just tasks, but mindset. They rehearse patience. They rehearse discipline. They rehearse calm responses to pressure. Because tomorrow's challenges are faced best with last night's composure. You don't rise to the level of your ambition under stress. You fall to the level of your preparation. And preparation teaches humility. It reminds you that success is not guaranteed by confidence alone. It must be earned repeatedly. It reminds you that effort still matters, focus still matters, and time, when used carelessly, never gives refunds. The wealthy prepare because they respect time. They treat it as an asset, not a backdrop. They don't just spend time, they invest it. And every investment begins with a plan. No one stumbles into wealth by accident. They may stumble into money, but wealth requires alignment, structure, and intentional direction. Preparation also reduces fear of starting. Many people stay stuck not because they lack ability, but because starting feels overwhelming. Preparation breaks the mountain into steps, and steps are manageable. Clarity converts intimidation into motion. And the most powerful part is this: preparation at night changes the kind of person you become. You stop being someone who hopes tomorrow will improve. You become someone who expects it to, because you showed up for it in advance. Hope is fragile. Expectation, when earned, is powerful. The wealthy go to sleep not wondering if tomorrow will be productive. They know it will carry purpose because they planted it there. They don't gamble on the morning. They guarantee it with intention. And this is where the shift happens for anyone listening. You don't need more time. You need more direction. You don't need more energy, you need clearer priorities. You don't need more motivation, you need a stronger nightly decision that tomorrow will mean something. Preparation is the bridge between vision and execution, and bridges are built one piece at a time, night after night, choice after choice, and once you understand this, evenings stop being the end of your day. They become the beginning of your future. Every night, whether you realize it or not, you are feeding something. You are either feeding your future or feeding your distractions. You are either strengthening your mind or slowly weakening it through neglect. The wealthy understand that the mind is not neutral territory. It is either being built or it is being broken down by what you repeatedly allow into it. There is no pause button on personal development. You are always becoming something. Most people feed their minds accidentally. Whatever appears on the screen becomes the diet. Whatever noise is loudest becomes the influence. Whatever feels entertaining becomes the authority. But the wealthy are deliberate. They know that what you install in the mind quietly rewrites the limits of what you believe is possible. They do not wait for inspiration to appear, they select it. You will never rise consistently higher than the standard you allow your mind to accept. Your actions rarely outgrow your thinking, and your thinking is shaped most powerfully in quiet moments, especially at night, when defenses are low and repetition goes straight into belief. This is why evenings are so dangerous when misused, and so powerful when directed. Most people say they don't have time to learn. What they really mean is they don't have a habit. Time is not found, it is allocated. And if you have time for entertainment, you have time for understanding. The wealthy do not reject pleasure. They simply refuse to let pleasure replace progress. They enjoy life, but they invest in wisdom first. A few pages a night may not seem like much. A short lesson may feel insignificant. A quiet moment of study may appear too small to matter. But compounding does not announce itself. It operates in silence. What feels small daily becomes massive over decades. The wealthy do not look for intensity, they look for consistency. Because consistency outperforms talent when talent lacks discipline. Knowledge creates options, ignorance creates limits, and limits eventually create frustration. Many people are not stuck because life is unfair. They are stuck because they stopped learning, they stopped challenging their assumptions, they stopped upgrading their thinking while the world kept upgrading its demands. The wealthy understand that you cannot build a wealthy life with a poor mental diet. You cannot think your way into abundance while feeding your mind with scarcity, fear, gossip, and comparison. Whatever you repeatedly focus on becomes the lens through which you interpret reality. Feed it weakness, and you will see obstacles everywhere. Feed it discipline, and you will find paths where others see walls. Most people underestimate how much their moods, confidence, and decisions are shaped by what they allow into their minds before sleep. The last dominant thought before rest often becomes the emotional tone of the next day. If you fall asleep anxious, you often rise uneasy. If you fall asleep disciplined, you often rise focused. Night is the checkpoint between who you were and who you will be tomorrow. The wealthy do not go to sleep rehearsing fear. They rehearse identity. They reinforce who they are becoming. They strengthen values, they refine vision, they review principles that guide behavior under pressure. Because when pressure arrives, you don't invent character, you reveal what you have practiced. Feeding the mind is also about subtraction. It is about removing what pollutes as much as adding what strengthens. Not everything loud deserves attention. Not everything popular deserves belief. Not everything urgent deserves reaction. The wealthy are selective. And selectivity is a form of self-respect. Most people think discipline is about effort. The wealthy know it is also about environment. If your environment constantly pulls you toward distraction, discipline will always feel exhausting. But when the environment is designed for focus, discipline becomes sustainable. They arrange their nights to make growth easier than distraction. They understand that emotion is trained, not fixed. Confidence is trained. Patience is trained. Courage is trained. And training requires repetition. You don't become strong by wishing. You become strong by repeatedly choosing resistance. The same principle applies to the mind. Every lesson studied, every principle revisited, every quiet moment invested becomes another repetition of strength. The wealthy also understand something most people ignore. The mind must be tended even when life is going well. Especially then, when things are comfortable, complacency tries to move in. When income rises, discipline is tempted to relax. When momentum builds, focus is tempted to wander. The wealthy continue feeding the mind even during success because they know that maintenance protects progress. They do not assume they have arrived. They assume they must remain sharp. They understand that yesterday's knowledge does not always solve tomorrow's problems, and arrogance is far more expensive than curiosity, so they remain students even when they become leaders. Many people wait for crisis to become serious. The wealthy become serious so they can prevent crisis. They do not wait for the storm to value structure. They build structure while the skies are calm, and this is why they recover faster when storms come, because they prepared in quiet seasons. What you study at night shapes how you respond under pressure. It shapes how you interpret rejection. It shapes whether you see difficulty as proof to quit or proof to grow. It shapes whether you look for excuses or solutions. It shapes whether you blame systems or build skills. The wealthy do not deny emotions. They train interpretations. They feel fear, but they do not let fear choose direction. They feel doubt, but they do not let doubt write identity. They feel pressure, but they do not let pressure erode discipline. And that control does not appear spontaneously. It is practiced quietly in moments when no one is watching. And the most overlooked truth of all is this: feeding the mind at night is an act of self-respect. It is saying, my future deserves better input than my impulses. It is choosing to become more than your current comfort level requires. No one becomes disciplined by accident. No one becomes confident by chance. No one becomes wealthy in thought without first becoming intentional in private. Public victories are always funded by private disciplines. And tonight, like every night before it, offers the same silent question: will you feed the habits that built your limits, or will you feed the thinking that breaks them? The wealthy answered that question a long time ago, and they keep answering it again every single night. Energy is the invisible currency of achievement. You can have time without energy and still accomplish nothing. You can have talent without energy and watch it decay through hesitation. You can have opportunity without energy and feel too drained to pursue it. The wealthy understand that energy is not something you accidentally preserve. It is something you deliberately defend. Most people believe they are tired because they work too hard. In truth, they are exhausted because they carry too much. Emotional weight, unresolved conflict, mental clutter, unprocessed disappointment, silent resentment. These invisible burdens drain far more energy than physical labor ever could. The body is often accused of being the problem when the real thief is the mind. The wealthy treat emotional exhaustion as a leak that must be sealed, not as a condition to be accepted. They understand that carrying bitterness into the night poisons tomorrow before it begins. Anger has a long half-life. So does regret. So does fear. And every night you allow those emotions to remain unresolved. They multiply quietly through your sleep and wake up with you in the morning. They clear internal noise before they attempt to rest, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Forgiveness is not weakness. Release is not surrender. Letting go is not denial. It is the decision to stop paying interest on emotional debt that no longer serves your future. You cannot carry yesterday's emotional weather into tomorrow's performance and expect clarity. You cannot hold onto old offenses and still demand fresh focus. The wealthy choose relief over righteousness because they understand that peace is productive. A restless mind cannot produce its best work. A heavy heart cannot sustain discipline. They also guard their energy from unnecessary exposure. Not every conversation deserves continuation. Not every argument deserves your voice. Not every opinion deserves your attention. The wealthy do not confuse accessibility with obligation. They understand that availability is valuable and value must be protected. Most people allow their evenings to be invaded by other people's agendas, other people's crises, other people's chaos. They sacrifice restoration at the altar of responsiveness. And over time, responsiveness becomes resentment. The wealthy set boundaries not because they are selfish, but because they are serious. They understand that saying yes too often at night creates weakness in the morning. Fatigue is rarely created by effort alone, it is magnified by obligation without alignment. When you consistently give your best energy to what does not serve your future eventually reflects that neglect. The wealthy also know when to stop. Not every task deserves immediate completion. Not every message deserves instant response. They understand that urgency is often manufactured, while importance is steady. They choose to rest from what can wait, so they can be strong for what cannot. Energy also leaks through comparison. Watching how others live, what others have, what others achieve without discipline, quietly poisons contentment and steals focus. The wealthy admire without envy, they observe without orbiting, they study without shrinking. They know that comparison is a tax with no return. They also protect their physical environment, light, noise, temperature, order. These seem small, but they signal to the nervous system whether it is safe to rest or necessary to stay alert. Chaos tells the body to remain armed. Order allows it to recover. The wealthy are intentional about both. They remove what agitates. They minimize what overstimulates. They simplify what overwhelms. Because the goal of evening is not stimulation, it is regeneration. Growth does not happen during effort alone. It happens during recovery. The discipline to rest is as valuable as the discipline to work. Many people equate rest with laziness. The wealthy equate rest with sharpening the blade. A dull blade works harder but cuts slower. A sharp blade moves with efficiency and precision. Refusing to rest does not make you stronger, it makes you worn. Energy is also protected through emotional honesty. Suppressed emotions still consume power. Pretending something doesn't affect you does not make you resilient, it makes you fractured. The wealthy confront what drains them, they name it, they process it, they release it, suppression leaks. Resolution restores. They also understand that joy is not a distraction from discipline, it is a fuel for it. Laughter, gratitude, meaningful connection, these do not weaken focus, they renew it. The wealthy do not starve their spirit in the name of productivity. They nourish it so productivity can be sustained, and they do not make exhaustion a personality. They do not glorify burnout as proof of importance. They do not trade health for applause. They do not sacrifice longevity for urgency. The marathon demands a different mindset than the sprint. And wealth in any true form is always a marathon. Energy is also spiritual in nature. Hope restores it. Purpose strengthens it, meaning multiplies it. When a person knows why they rise, they endure far more without breaking. When purpose fades, even small pressures feel crushing. The wealthy revisit purpose when energy dips, not more pressure. And through all of this, the evening becomes a gatekeeper. It decides what enters the body, the mind, the emotions, and the spirit. And whatever passes that gate travels with you into tomorrow. The wealthy stand guard at that gate. They limit exposure to what weakens. They increase access to what restores. They do not carry unnecessary weight across nights. They understand that energy preserved is power multiplied. And the truth that most people eventually learn the hard way is simple. You cannot outperform your ability to recover. Eventually, what you refuse to release will release you from momentum. But this, too, is a choice. Every night is a decision point. Carry or clear, drain or restore, decay or renew. The wealthy renew. And that renewal is what allows them to rise, day after day, with power still in reserve. Sleep is not the absence of effort. It is the strategy that makes effort sustainable. While the world celebrates the hustle, the wealthy understand the rhythm. They know that performance is not built by endless strain, but by precise cycles of exertion and recovery. The night is not a pause in progress. It is the furnace where strength is restored and clarity is refined. Most people treat sleep like an afterthought, something squeezed in when everything else is done. The wealthy treat it like an appointment with tomorrow's performance. They understand that every hour of rest is an investment into sharper decisions, steadier emotions, stronger discipline, and faster recovery. You can fake energy for a short time, but eventually fatigue collects its debt with interest. Sleep does not simply rest the body. It rebuilds the mind, it resets emotional balance, it stabilizes judgment, it strengthens impulse control. It improves memory, it enhances problem solving, it fortifies patience. The wealthy do not argue with biology, they align with it. They do not try to outwork nature, they work with it. Many people wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, as if fatigue were proof of importance. The wealthy see exhaustion as a warning signal, not a trophy. They understand that constant depletion leads to poor decisions, weakened discipline, emotional volatility, and shrinking perspective. When you are tired, everything feels harder than it actually is. Problems feel bigger, setbacks feel heavier, temptations feel stronger, sleep shrinks problems back to their true size. The wealthy protect the transition into rest. They do not slam straight from chaos into sleep. They slow the mind before they still the body. They dim stimulation. They disengage from unnecessary noise. They let the nervous system stand down from constant alert. Because you cannot command the mind to rest, you must invite it. They understand that late night agitation steals tomorrow's clarity. The mind that falls asleep in conflict often wakes up in confusion. The heart that goes to bed in stress usually rises in resistance, so they quiet the internal storms before trying to rest within them. They also respect the power of routine. The body loves rhythm. When sleep arrives at consistent times, recovery deepens. Decision-making sharpens, hormones stabilize, willpower strengthens, discipline becomes easier because the body itself is no longer fighting the schedule. The wealthy do not let chaos dictate their nights, because chaos always contaminates the morning. Late nights may feel productive in the moment, but they borrow against tomorrow. And borrowed energy always costs more to repay than it was worth to spend. The wealthy think in long cycles, not short bursts. They play the long game with rest because the long game is where real wealth is built. Sleep is also where identity consolidates. What you practice while awake is encoded while you rest. Patterns become habits, beliefs become automatic. Reactions become reflex. This is why the last thoughts at night matter so much. The mind does not turn off, it reorganizes. And what it reorganizes becomes tomorrow's default behavior. The wealthy are intentional with what they hand to their subconscious. They do not fall asleep rehearsing fear, They do not collapse into resentment. They do not drift into doubt. They plant direction instead, calm, confidence, gratitude, determination, because what you plant at night often grows in the morning. They also understand that rest is not just physical, it is emotional. You can sleep 8 hours and still wake up exhausted if the heart is burdened. Unresolved conflict lingers in the nervous system. Silent worry tightens the chest even in stillness. The wealthy practice emotional closure before sleep. They do not carry open loops into rest. They forgive not because offense disappeared, but because sleep is too valuable to contaminate. They release not because it feels fair, but because rest is essential. They refuse to let yesterday steal tomorrow's sharpness. Sleep is also where humility lives. It reminds every achiever that the body has limits, that ego does not override biology, that recovery is not negotiable forever. The wealthy respect those limits early, so they are not forced to respect them later through breakdown. And in rest, patience is renewed. The mind regains the ability to wait, to endure delay, to withstand slow seasons without panic. Exhaustion makes people reckless. Rest returns them to reason. Many long-term failures are not due to lack of ambition. They are due to the symptoms of sustained fatigue. The wealthy also understand that sleep protects decision integrity. When you are rested, you choose better. You delay gratification longer. You resist impulse more strongly. You think further ahead. You negotiate with clarity instead of emotion. You evaluate risk with calm instead of desperation. Sleep preserves the future versions of your choices. They also remove what violates rest, light that overstimulates, sound that interrupts, pending conflicts that agitate, consumption that inflames, late-night digital noise that overfeeds the nervous system. The wealthy do not invite enemies of rest into the bedroom because the bedroom is a workshop for tomorrow. Sleep is not fragility. It is strength preparing itself quietly. It is the warrior setting down the armor long enough to maintain the body beneath it. Without that maintenance, even the strongest blade eventually snaps under pressure. And through all of this, a quiet truth governs their relationship with sleep. Tomorrow matters enough to deserve recovery tonight. They are not trying to escape the day. They are preparing their capacity to rise again. You cannot compress rest without compressing longevity. You cannot steal from recovery without robbing performance. You cannot ignore fatigue without eventually becoming it. The wealthy do not gamble with the engine that drives their ambition. They protect it night after night, choice after choice, and in that protection, something quiet but powerful happens. The mind stays sharp. The heart stays steady. The will stays strong, the pace stays sustainable, the future stays reachable. Sleep is not the retreat from progress, it is the reinforcement of it.